Once upon a time, in the Briary Republic, a president made decisions in the most peculiar locations. He would stop by the roadside to buy bananas and announce the appointment of a vice president. On occasion, while sampling roast maize sold by an elderly woman, he confirmed the dismissal of the governor of the Central Bank of Briary. The Voice of Briary, VOB, a popular national radio station, updated the nation daily after a weird signature tune that sounded like an alarm beep. With time, the beeping was automatically associated with breaking news of the roadside appointments or sackings. Civil servants, politicians and their families tuned in religiously to learn the fate of their loved ones. Once appointed, one received instant perks such as armed security escort, a posh house, paid vacations, government allowances, expensive cars and a pool of drivers. The appointees worked hard, arriving in the office early, leaving their coats on their chairs as proof of life, and collecting them in the late evenings. Their performance targets were highly classified state information. The huge sitting allowances they earned from ultra-important meetings were an open secret. These allowances were reviewed by Parliament annually and adjusted generously from taxpayers' contributions to enable them to cope with the heavy workload. Unlike when high-priority development bills were tabled, the salary sessions were well attended. The appointees gradually developed huge potbellies from sumptuous meals served during crucial secret day-long rendezvous, as they worked on national development plans that never materialized. The appointees became extremely wealthy within a short time, their sudden riches often linked to family businesses. Their investments ranged from selling charcoal to eggs, generating millions overnight. These unique, thriving businesses were linked to ruling families across the continent that hosted Briary. For instance, a president's daughter who started selling eggs at age 12 attributed her multi-billion-dollar empire of oil, gas, banking and real estate to the capital she amassed from her childhood entrepreneurship exploits. Generations in Briary had sold eggs, a trade they inherited from great-great-grandparents. Disease would clear the flock, forcing families to start afresh every year. Briarians thus concluded her success story was akin to fairy tales. She must have had the rare luck of owning the goose that laid golden eggs, which birthed her immense wealth. Briarians instead speculated on how many carats formed a golden egg and, by proxy, its value. Their computation covered daily eggs laid by a goose and collected by the president's daughter from age 12 to late 30s. A goose could live between 10 and 20 years. She probably reared hundreds of geese, and so the golden eggs could easily fill several treasure chests. They concluded she was a magnate 10 times over. Her wealth was thus grossly underestimated. The drivers of the appointees also made a comparative analysis across the continent. They tuned in to VOB while their bosses devoured nyama choma, roasted meat and beer, and waited for the big news, especially when the president was traveling up country. As soon as they learnt that their boss appointee was fired unceremoniously while the president mulled over how much to pay for bananas on a muddy rural lane, they politely pulled off the road and firmly requested the former excellency to alight. Sometimes the drop-off point was in the midst of a forest or outside an informal settlement where appointees passed numerous times with their luxurious state cars. They usually closed the dark-tinted windows and blasted the air conditioning to keep out foul smells, shielding themselves from the shame of the poverty they created. Fear crept into the appointee's eyes, knowing the neighborhood would scorn and chide him or her. Desperation kicked in. Pilot! An awkward address. After years of service, the appointee didn't know the name of the driver or recognize their facial features. Eye contact meant degrading one's position, and talking to a driver was an acknowledgement of being equal to the have-nots. Opening conversations with the have-nots encouraged them to beg for favors. The status quo had to be maintained at all costs. The faceless persons who served appointees were referred to by their roles, emphasized to belittle them. Titles such as gateman, maid, tea lady, driver, cleaner, janitor, and shamba boy gardener were used disdainfully, the unwritten rule of the elite pecking order. "You always call me a driver. My name is neither driver nor pilot, but you wouldn't know, would you?" "If I were a pilot, I would be at the airport, not here with you," retorted John, the driver who relished his elevated role in the impeccable black and white uniform suit he wore year in, year out. "If you don't mind, I need to report back to base to pick up my new boss. You understand, I can't disobey the president." The appointee sweated his open coat, revealing his belly button, as his shirt was undone after receiving the bombshell from VOB. John wondered secretly how long it would take to shed that weight without government perks. He estimated a few weeks. Some had died from hypertension or a heart attack within months of being fired. These political figures didn't know the cost of bread, milk or flour, as their perks included free food rations. The high cost of petrol was rumours, hearsay and fabrication of the media and citizens, as the state fueled their cars pro bono. They were out of touch, ignorant as to how operational costs and taxes burdened the poor citizens of Briery. On the reverse side, luck befell an unsuspecting poor Briarian travelling on a rickety bus up-country, wondering why the gods had forsaken him. Like the chauffeurs of the appointees, the bus drivers had also learnt that the beep of VOB signalled a breaking news moment, and all tuned in. One of the passengers was pleasantly surprised to learn the president deemed him capable of running the Ministry of Finance, his fortune changing in the battered bus, symbolising that anyone could rise from ruins to riches. The passengers urged the bus driver to proceed cautiously so that the precious cargo would be delivered intact. They addressed the new appointee as His Excellency, hoping he would not forget them. The Excellency was dropped at the next bus station, where the previous appointee was forced to alight from a government Mercedes with the fall of their status. The awestruck passengers witnessed how the new appointee was whisked away in the black shimmering car, accompanied by formidable security. The passengers clung to the dream that one day they would secure influential government positions. Maybe they would be appointed while riding a bicycle, walking to work, or going to the farm astride their donkeys. Thus, portable radios were part of the daily routine in anticipation of life-changing news. VOB was the most popular news station. Business boomed for firms selling portable radios and related accessories such as batteries and spare parts. The women from whom the president bought the bananas or maize got fame and fortune overnight. Several media houses landed in their humble abode to record and air special segments of their encounter with the president. Each tried to gain the president's favor to ensure their respective radio or TV stations were not gagged or shut down. These media tried new vantage angles on the story. Suddenly, there were competing headlines like how the president's kind act enabled a poor widow to pay school fees for her children, a humble president mingling with his subjects, the president boosts local businesses through his generous purchases, a president who connects with his citizens and why you should re-elect him. Briery media excelled in packaging and repackaging stories complete with photographic evidence. The women became famous with mixed fortunes. For starters, their sales increased tremendously from the local populace enthralled with their products, which attracted the president. Foreign tourists trickled in after a segment of the retold stories hit the international mega news companies. They were keen to document their visit to the traders and locales where historic decisions were made. The sales attracted two currencies: the local devalued money that the communities paid, and the precious foreign cash that visitors used to procure bananas and maize. It was speculated that these purchases were taken to foreign laboratories to analyze the ingredients that made them special. Some dried ones were displayed in museums abroad. Maybe one day they would be auctioned for millions due to their historical value. Some traders in the vicinity were not elated for their colleagues. They occasionally torched the women's kiosks. Jobless youth calculated the money the women made and waited to rob them in the evenings. The youth considered themselves merciful thieves, forced into the profession by extreme poverty. They requested the women to gently pass all the day's earnings, including the ones tucked in braziers, a common hiding place for cash in Briery. They didn't harm the women whom they regarded as their mothers. They instead shared some of the stolen money with the women to cover their transport costs. In one case, a shaken lady, popularly known as Mama Brian, who couldn't walk or talk after being robbed, was supported by the same youth to the nearest police station and left outside the gate so she could be assisted. The shock of losing her precious currencies rendered her incoherent and immobile, albeit temporarily. The youth were unconcerned whether the police would track and apprehend them. The police never paid any attention to crimes. Statistics in the Briary Republic were such that high-profile murders were never solved, but persons who stole chicken or goats were jailed for 5 to 10 years. The rich paid their way out of any crime. Petty poor thieves knew the law was against them and wouldn't dare steal. How could any criminal risk dropping an elderly woman they had just robbed in front of the police station? The woman must have dementia. The police laughed, holding their ribs, while making Mama Brian narrate the story repeatedly and pretending to record a statement in the occurrence book popularly known as OB. Thank you for watching the introduction to the story that is included in the first chapter of the book. You can access the ebook or the printed version on Amazon to read this hilarious yet sobering story that unpacks an all-round toxic leadership at home, in the workplace, and in the political arena.